Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. My name is Courtney, and if you are new, you probably have never seen me before, but this is me. I am the face of the voice behind the camera. I used to be in front of the camera when I first started my channel a lot more, but over time, I was trying to streamline my videos. I know that we are all in a rush. We all have things to do. Y'all are here to see grocery hauls. You're here for recipes or meal ideas. You're not here to see my face. So the videos are quicker and much more streamlined if I just do a voiceover, which is what I normally do. But today I wanted to just take one quick minute to chat with you guys. So I'm starting something new. I mentioned it in my grocery haul and you've seen the title of the video. I'm doing something called Back to Basics budget cooking. So if you guys are like me, grocery prices are just not moving the direction we want them to. I'm still paying what I think is just like an astronomical amount for groceries. I'm not happy about it. I don't think you guys are either. And I think we're all looking for long-term, more sustainable ways to save money. Sure, extreme grocery budget challenge videos are a lot of fun. It's really, neat to see how creative people can get, but that's not a long-term thing that most of us want to do. I don't want to cook that way every single week, and I don't think you do too. There is a time where we all have to do that, but I think we're all looking for something more normal, and I've tried different things, but really what I kept coming back to was the best way I've always saved money was more basic meals. I love trying new recipes and I will still definitely be doing that, but they're going to be a lot more affordable when I do. And what I'm really going to focus on over the rest of the summer is keeping my grocery budget down and making basic, affordable meals. These are going to be classics. These are going to be family favorites. These are meals my family adores. I'm not going to make anything that is not approved by at least one member in my family. In this video coming up today, you guys are going to see one of my husband's favorites, and I make it just for him. No one else really likes it, but it's a classic and I know tons of people eat it. It's the sausage mac and cheese, so stick around because you may love that one. I'm also going to be dropping tips and hints on how to kind of dress up a plain, boring dinner. The first one coming up today is going to be spaghetti. We've all done spaghetti. Everybody loves it, but I mean, it's a tried and true tired recipe, right? But this is how I kind of change it up just to make it a little more fun. I'm not serving a side salad. I just kind of dress it up with some veggies and dip, and I'll show you that in just a minute. The rest of the recipes are just economical ideas on how to save money, and next week will be the same thing, but I'm gonna keep coming up with more meal ideas and more recipes that we can all do to keep those grocery budgets down. But all of these are gonna be simple and easy. I'm not looking for anything truly complicated in the kitchen, and if I do cook anything that seems fancy, like maybe shrimp, it's because I get it on sale. I can get it on sale for $4.97 a pound really regularly where I live. And if you cannot, I will give you alternatives that you could use in place of the shrimp to make whatever it is I make. I typically do try to list off things you could do, substituting ground turkey for ground beef, things like that. With that being said, I just kind of wanted to go over what direction I'm going to be moving in for these videos for the next couple of months. If you guys have meal ideas and suggestions, like budget recipes that you think are fantastic and winners your family loves, maybe it's just something y'all created, please send them my way. I would love to try them. I would love to share the recipe. I would love to highlight them in my video and of course give you credit for it. Anyway, guys, that's enough chatting. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the video and see what it is I fed my family this week. All right, friends, this first one is just more of a suggestion on how to dress up a classic dinner. Spaghetti with red sauce. I serve mine with no meat, which really cuts down on cost, but you could do ground turkey, ground beef, whatever you want. It's still a cheap meal. I like to dress it up with veggies and dip or salad. And you can see I've got a spread. I've got olives. You could throw some pickles out there. I've made some homemade dressing. And then I've got some Parmesan. And look at that balsamic glaze. I picked this up so cheaply. It is not expensive at all, but it's a fun way to dress up a classic meal that everybody might possibly get bored with. I also threw in a super cheap dessert. These are Rice Krispie treats, but I use Cocoa Krispies instead of just regular Rice Krispies. Very cheap to make, very quick to make, and it really just kind of makes it not so much of a boring meal. And look at that. My family loves this one. It's a classic and it's so cheap. Pasta's $1. You can get sauce for a little bit over $1 at Walmart if you skip the meat. That right there is $2 to feed your family, and then you can add on the veggies or fruits. You could do chopped up fruit too that you have in your fridge. All right, sausage, mac and cheese. This is one of my husband's favorites. It is not one of mine, but I do make it for him because he absolutely loves it. I will link the original recipe down below. It's very easy to make and it's very cheap. I have discovered that typically I can find smoked sausage that goes on sale pretty regularly in my area. And of course, you could always just do hot dogs if you really wanted to cut cost. but I can usually pick up sausage for $2, $2.50, something like that. I am using a jalapeno sausage because I thought that would be just a little bit more fun. So I just chopped it up into bite-sized pieces and I'm sauteing it in a pan with just half an onion that I've diced up. You can add some garlic too. I'm just throwing in some garlic powder. I actually had to thaw out some confit garlic because I make that from scratch and it's what I usually use. And it was still frozen, so I'm just using garlic powder for today. I added a little bit of pepper, but no salt because we're going to be adding some bouillon. That's what I just put in there. The recipe calls for chicken bouillon, but I use beef because I just think the flavor tastes so much better in here. But bouillon powder is super salty, so when I'm going to be using it like this, I typically will just skip the salt in my dish and add in just a tiny bit extra of the bouillon powder, and then I added in my water just so I would have broth. Now, if you've got regular chicken or beef broth on hand, that's fine too, but I honestly think for this particular recipe, the bouillon powder tastes way better. I also added in a little bit of heavy whipping cream because I had some in my fridge. Had I not, I would have just added in some milk, or you can use evaporated milk like in the can that you usually bake with. That is a great substitution for heavy cream, but typically I would just throw in just a little bit of regular milk. If the recipe called for half a cup of regular milk, I would probably do like half a cup of heavy cream. I would do a third a cup of regular milk as a substitute. But once you've got that in there, throw in your 8 ounces of pasta and just let it simmer. You'll know it's done because the pasta is pretty much fully cooked. You still want it a little al dente, and it is really just kind of soaked up all the liquids. At that point, I turned the stove off and I added in my shredded cheese. I'm just using the packaged stuff. I know the stuff is not as melty as when you shred it yourself. Also, not always as budget friendly. However, I live near a market street and they pretty routinely put cheese on sale. And these packages are, $2, occasionally $1.50. So I actually get some pretty good deals on it. But if you really want to save some money, it's always more economical to get the block of cheese and grate it yourself. And that's what it looks like. I meal prepped this for dinner for him that night because we had some leftovers for some other stuff that my kids and I ate. But I also made it for his lunches for the week. So this was a great meal. All right, skillet Mississippi chicken and potatoes. I've cooked this one before on my channel and it's super simple and super cheap. I'm using baby potatoes because that's what I had on hand and I didn't want to have to buy potatoes if I already had some, but you can use any kind of potatoes you have. Russets are typically the cheapest. Wash them. You can peel them if you want. I don't peel these baby ones. I don't always peel russets either. I just chopped them up into bite-sized typed pieces. If you're doing russets, just cube them up, into bite-sized pieces. And now we're going to season them a little bit. I've got a little bit of olive oil that I threw in there. We'll do a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper and a little bit of paprika. I'm not going to go nutty with this seasoning here because we're going to be adding some ranch to this later. And ranch has a ton of flavor. So I didn't want to put too much stuff on there. I did put just a little bit of garlic powder in there, but I'm not heavy-handed with it just because, like I said, that ranch is super powerful when we add it later. I'm going to link the original recipe down below, but I do make a couple of changes to how I do this. So the recipe says to air fry your potatoes, which is fine. Mine are a little bit too big for my air fryer because I'm cooking a pretty large batch, so we have leftovers. So I'm going to put mine in my oven. I always line my baking tray with parchment paper, and I do my potatoes cut side down. So even if you've cubed russet potatoes, make sure that a cut side is what's touching your cookie sheet because it'll crisp up and get delicious and beautiful. 400 degrees for like 20 to 25 minutes. So while that's doing its thing, I've got some chicken. I'm using chicken thighs. They are the most affordable cut of chicken. And I do find that I can get them on sale pretty often. You can use chicken breast if that's what you have. But for this, I do think chicken thighs, one, they just kind of hold up better to the high heat in the cooking. And two, again, they're more economical. I can a lot of times get them buy one, get one free at Market Street, or I can find them other places for, around $1.99 to $2.40 a pound, which is a pretty good deal in today's economy. So I just recommend chicken thighs. I am cutting off some of the fat, but not all of it because we can use a little bit of that for flavor and keeping the chicken from drying out. But some of those chunks are pretty big, so I did remove those, and I'm just cubing this up into bite-sized pieces and tossing it into a big bowl because we're going to season it just like we did the potatoes. So there's my chicken all cubed up, and we're going to season it just like we did, exactly like we did the potatoes. I got my oil. We're going to do some salt and some pepper, and we're going to do a little bit of garlic powder and paprika. I think the original recipe says to season these a little bit differently, but this is the way I'm doing it, and I'm going to tell you that this dish turned out absolutely fabulous. I've made it a couple of times, and this is the method that I found I think works best when I cook it. So I'm gonna season the chicken just like I did the potatoes and toss them in a ripping hot skillet with a little bit, well, there's oil on them, so I don't have to put any oil in the skillet. But we're just gonna put them in there, lay them in a flat layer and let them cook and, you know, kind of develop some flavor and stuff. I've got a pretty full pan, so I'm not expecting there to be like any browning or caramelization. It's probably gonna be a lot of steaming, which is fine, but I just wanna let them cook thoroughly and completely. So while they're doing their thing, we're gonna make this sauce that we're gonna pour over. So I've melted a couple of tablespoons of butter, and to that, the recipe calls for pepperoncinis, which is great. If you've got them, that's fine. The deal is I would have to buy them specially for this recipe. I always have these pickled jalapenos on hand because we love them. So for my household, I'm going to use these, and I'm going to be honest, these are typically a lot cheaper. You don't have to get this brand. You can get a million different brands out there, and they are way cheaper than pepperoncinis. Just make sure you get the mild ones if you don't want them to be hot, and it's delicious. So I add some of the peppers, which you don't have to add peppers in there, but you do have to add the juice. The juice is key. So I did about 4 to 5 tablespoons of the juice with my about 3 tablespoons of butter. And then we're going to add in the equivalent of a package of au jus gravy mix. I make my own mixes like this, and I will link that video down below if you're interested in doing that in your home too. It is cheaper, and it's just super handy to have on hand all the time. So I'm just using what would be the equivalent of a package of that and a package of ranch dressing mix there. And again, another one that I make myself. I'll link that video down below. It's super easy. So easy. I will say when you're making the ranch mix, if you're using the buttermilk powder like I do, sometimes you might need to just toss it in your food processor just to kind of powder it up because it does tend to get clumpy. And if you do that prior to making your ranch mix, it will not be clumpy. So if you're going to be watching that video and making those mixes at home, just keep that in mind because I didn't realize it when I made them the first time. I've learned that since then. All right, so our potatoes are out of the oven. Look how crispy and delicious they look. They were fabulous. The potatoes are my favorite part of this whole dish. So I'm gonna throw them right in that skillet with that chicken that has just finished cooking. We're gonna give this a good stir just to kind of mix everybody around and get everybody's flavors together and mixed up. There's still a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan from the chicken, and the potatoes will just soak that right up. It'll keep everything from sticking. And after that, we're just gonna take that sauce mix that we made and pour it right over the top. And this dish is pretty much done. I like to let this sit on the heat for, 2 minutes or so because it helps everybody soak up that sauce we just poured in. And these are phenomenal. Like I said, the potatoes are my absolute favorite part. The chicken is just to die for, but those potatoes, y'all, oh my gosh, they are so delicious. And those potatoes with some of those peppers are amazing. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's so good. This meal is super simple, and it doesn't take a lot to make, and it's pretty economical. I mean, I know potatoes are not as cheap as they used to be, obviously. Nothing is, but they are still a very affordable thing to add to your meals. And you can buy a pretty big bag if you buy them in bulk and get a pretty decent price for them. And again, I see chicken thighs go on sale all the time. If you really want to save some money, buy your chicken bone and skin on and remove it from the bone, take off the skin yourself, and you'll save a lot of money. I served this with more veggies and dip. I sauteed some mushrooms, and I opened a can of black-eyed peas. These were things I had on hand. It was nothing fancy. The mushrooms I got on clearance at HEB on my last grocery haul, so it really was just a simple meal. But those veggies and dip are a nice change if you do a lot of salads. It's just kind of a nice way to switch things up. My family loves it. All right, tostadas. I've made this one before on my channel frequently. It's always included in my budget meal videos, and it's never not going to be included because this is such a quick and easy and delicious meal. Now, I'm frying up my own tostada shells. So I've just got corn tortillas, and I put them in oil, and I fry them. It doesn't take that long. It really doesn't. I think for me to do a batch of 3, which I will get through in my pan at once here in just a minute, but for me to do a batch of 3, they finish frying in the skillet. It takes about 1.5 minutes. So it's pretty quick. It's not hard to do, but you can buy them pre-made in your grocery store as well. I will tell you, I think making them from scratch, they taste way better. They are a little bit more brown than the ones from the grocery store. And when I pull mine out, I sprinkle just a little bit of salt on them. And I just think they come out wonderfully, and they are so delicious. But again, if you want to cut corners on time, you can buy them pre-made. I think cost-wise, they're pretty much on par with each other. I just feel like this tastes better. I spent less than $2 to get a pack of 30 tortillas, and I did fry up all 30 of them because we're gonna have chips and queso over the weekend as well. So it does not hurt me to have some of these tostadas left over. So I paid less than $2. I want to say it was like $1.90. And I think I pay about $2.50 to get a pack of the ones that are already made in the store. I think there's a Gutierrez brand and another one I can't remember that they sell locally. And they both run about $2.50, and you get 30 to 36 in a pack. So you can see the price point's not that far off. We're looking at a difference of 50 to 60 cents. So honestly, this is one, if you need to save the time, buy them from the store, and I do that sometimes. But if you have the time to fry these, they come out so much better. Another ingredient that I'm using is canned refried beans. Again, it saves time. I make homemade beans all the time. Like, I'm not afraid of it, and it doesn't bother me. It's not hard to do. However, it does take a while because I typically will do mine slow cooker style. I do not like them in the pressure cooker. I will do them in the slow cooker. So that means I've got to invest like 6 to 8 hours in these things. Sometimes I'll do them on the stovetop, but that's still an investment of like 2 to 3 hours minimum. So if I really want to throw together a quick meal, I always have canned refried beans on hand, and they're easy to do. But if you want to make your own, just throw some beans, some garlic, some onions, and some pepper, maybe a little bit of chili powder in a slow cooker or on your stove. Add some water and let them cook. Salt them when they are completely done, and then you just put them in a skillet with a little bit of their juice and mash them, and continue to add their juice or water until you get a consistency that you like. Some people like them thicker, some people like them thinner, so that really is up to you. I put a little bacon grease in my skillet when I refry my own refried beans, but you could just do like regular oil or butter, whatever you have on hand is fine. And just a pro tip, adding a little bit of chorizo to some homemade refried beans is epic. But as you can see, these are finishing up. They're crispy and delicious and fantastic. And really, you can put whatever you want on them. Typically, this is another vegetarian meal in my household, which means it's incredibly economical. I would typically, for one meal, we wouldn't even use 1/2 of a package of these tortillas. So it's probably about 50 cents worth of tostadas, a $1 can of refried beans, and then we do cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, typically things that I have on hand. Guacamole, I always have that on hand too. You can make fresh salsa like I do, or you can just open up a jar. You can get that cheaply at the store. I throw out black olives because my family likes them. You don't have to do that. That's up to you. I had some leftover taco meat in my freezer from when I made tacos over the weekend, so I pulled that out. But typically, again, we do vegetarian, and that is what I ate. I ate a vegetarian one. And like, the taco meat's fine. I'm sure that chicken taco meat would be great, but the way I've always served them and the way we typically eat them is vegetarian. Beans and cheese, guacamole, lettuce, salsa, olives. It's so, so good. And it's so refreshing in the summer. One of my favorites for sure. When I say I'm serving tostadas, my family gets as excited as most people do about steak. So this is a really delicious one. All right, y'all, that's what I have. These are cheap and easy meals. Make them fun, dress them up, serve some different sides with them. Have at it. It's easy to cook on a budget if you get a little bit creative, and that's what we did this week. So I'll be doing that next week as well. I hope to see you there. Have a great one, guys. Bye.